Welcome to our ADM Lucid automation testing channel. We will have a series of talk about Selenium automation testing, which will help you better understand the basics of Selenium and also guide you to build your own Selenium automation project. You may access our test projects and guide in the description below. Feel free to subscribe to our channel for any new videos and updates.
Hi, in today's video, we are going to continue talking about designing our own web test project. On this slide that I'm shown here, this is an overview of the structure of our web test project. You see here in the middle, these are the controller classes, which contain booking, golf, and login. This controller class calls upon the test classes such as booking, golf, and login. Within these test classes, we have various test cases for testing the elements of booking, the elements of golf, and the elements of login. When running the controller class, we also require information such as web locators and elements. Thus, the controller class calls upon the UI manager, which then calls upon the web element classes such as booking, golf, and login, which contains information such as web locators that allow us to run the test. When running the controller class, if we run into any fail cases, it will call upon the screenshot class, and the screenshot class will take a picture of what went wrong and save it for later. After the controller classes are completed, it will call upon extent report, which will then create an overview of what happened during our test. Next, I'm going to be showing you how the code of this project looks. First, let's look at the group of classes called controllers. This we have categorized under the package controller. First, we're going to open the class base. Base is a general class that we created that contains functions that can be reused in other controller classes. Let me give you a quick walkthrough through base. So first, here in base, we have the function test browser. Essentially, what test browser allows you to do is it allows you to select the browser that we want to use during our web test. For instance, here under the switch, it takes the parameter string bs, and according to whatever parameter we give it, such as Chrome, Firefox, and Edge, it will open the browser using Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. After it opens the browser using those parameter options, next, what it will do is it will take the base URL that we have in our configuration files, and it will open that base URL so we can test the website that we want using the browser that we want. Within this class, there are some other functions as well that are general functions that are used by test classes. For instance, this first function, click button, which contains a parameter string w and string text, this allows us to click a button on the page, where w is the web element and text is the text on the button, just in case we want to confirm that we are clicking the right button. Following, click button 2 is the same thing, except in click button 2, we do not feed the parameter text, and so we only click based off of the web element that we give it. Following, we also have enter text and drop list. In enter text, basically we find the web element with the web element w, web locator w, and then we enter text and we send those fields. In drop list, we find the web element with the web locator w, and we click from the drop-down list whichever one matches value text. Within this class, we have some other general functions as well that can be reused by the other classes. This includes, for instance, verify title text, which verifies the title of the page, for instance. We also have some other ones as well, such as these shown below. Essentially, how we're able to reuse these classes within base is that every other controller class that we create, for instance booking here, will extend upon the base class. What this allows us to do is it allows us to call directly from the functions that are found in the base class, as the base class will serve as a parent class. And this scenario is found for the golf class as well and the login class as well, which all extend upon the base class. Next, I will give a walkthrough of our booking class. So here is our booking class. As we can see here, we are importing extent reports. This is because within the booking class, we need to use extent reports to record anything that happens during our testing. So I'm just going to give a quick walkthrough of this booking class now. So in the beginning here, we see that we create 3 different extent HTML reporters. These ones have each their individual locations specified here, which is a requirement for its argument. So we have 3 different HTML reports that we can choose to write into. Next, we also create the instances for the UI manager and the extent reports, which we explained previously in our PowerPoint slide. So moving forward, we can see that here under the class book golf course, we have various different methods that we specified in our previous base function. These methods, for instance, are click button, which allows us to click a button, drop list, which allows us to select an item in a drop-down list, enter text, which allows us to enter text into a text field, and so on. But for the sake of this booking class, we're going to make it a little bit more complex. We're going to want to incorporate the extent reports so that whenever we do one of these methods and something goes wrong, we will have the ability to record what happened so we can look back at it in the future. So let us first look at book golf course 2 then. So we see in the beginning here, it takes the argument test int, and this test int essentially can be an integer that is 0, 1, or 2. Depending on the integer, it will choose which HTML report that we want to write into. So 0 would be for HTML reporter 1, 1 would be for HTML reporter 1, and 2 would be for HTML reporter 2. Afterwards, we create an instance test. And this instance will basically create a test for the book and golf course. So following this instance, we have a bunch of different tests that we can run. Within these tests, we always use a try and catch statement. Let us look at this first example right here. Right here, we do a try statement where we want to test the browser. And this wait is essentially, it just waits for several seconds so that it can load. And afterwards, if this try statement passes, then we will write open web browser. But if it fails, so if we catch an exception, then it will write could not open the web app. And then right here, plus E, this is essentially, it will just write whatever exception we catch into the HTML reporter. This final line right here, extent.flush, is essentially telling the program, write whatever we have into our HTML report. So that is very simple, just opening the web browser. Next, for instance, if we look at clicking a button. So if we want to click a button, we can do try click button. And remember previously we needed 2 different arguments. The first one is its locator, and the second one is whatever text we have in the on the button on the web page. And so we test that, and if it passes, it'll basically write the button of book golf course. But if it fails, we're going to catch, for right here in this one specifically, we're going to catch no such element exception, and we name it E. And so when it fails, we'll write into our extent report the button of the book golf courses, and then we'll add whatever exception we get, and then we'll write that into our extent report. So those are some very simple examples. We also have some other ones too. For instance, these ones will validate the text of the book, of the booking of the golf course, and so on. So this is verifying the title, and so on. Below here, we have some examples with drop-down lists and some examples with enter text. For instance, here, right here, we're going to try selecting a drop-down list, and we're going to try selecting Tiger A in this drop-down list here. If it passes, it will send this line of text. But if we catch the exception of no such element exception, then it will write this text into the thing instead. Same thing for the enter text here. It'll try to enter John Smith into the text here, and if it passes, it'll write this information into the extent report. But if it fails, it'll write this followed by whatever exception we catch here. Also, we have something a little bit more complex than previously. So in this test right here, we have so we're trying to verify the title of our web page. So if we get the proper web page title, we just simply write this line of text here into the extent report. However, if it is not the right title, what we added here is we actually create a screenshot, and then we name the screenshot booking, and then we add that into our extent report here instead. Now we're going to look at the test classes. So here I have one of the test classes open, booking_edge. In this test class, we try to open the browser Edge. So let me try this out. Remember that we have other test classes too, booking_Chrome, which has Chrome here instead of Edge, and Firefox, which has Firefox here instead of Edge as well. So I'm just going to run this all right now. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to run tests in Java. And we'll just give it a little bit of time to run. So this one opens the Edge browser. Now it's opening the Chrome browser. And finally, it'll open the Firefox browser. So we see that all the tests passed. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to comment out this really quickly. So this is just open the browser. We're going to use this second line instead. And this one, what it does is it calls book golf course 2 from our original controller class booking. And this time, we're going to run this again. So what we can do is we can go to booking edge, and we can do run booking edge. And remember, in our controller class, we had a variety of functions, or methods that we want to test. Some of them were select a drop-down list, enter text, click a button, and so on. So by calling that class, what we're doing is we're just doing that right now. So we'll give it some time to run, and afterwards we see that all our tests passed. Remember, in our controller class, we utilized extent reports. So what we actually have here is we have our extent report saved. So what I can do is I can open it by right-clicking and going to Open in Browser, and I'll just use Firefox. And so I open it up, and we see that we have all the information from our test. So we see that one of our tests passed, and these are the variety of the various steps within our test. So in blue is the information, and in green is the test that the steps that passed. And what we also see is that we see it timestamps each individual one, and it gives a status. So for instance, and it also has its details, which we specified in our original class. So for instance, here expected was golf course, and what we got was golf course as well. For here we have expected end time, what we got is actual end time as well. And then this is like the variety of text boxes, the buttons, and the drop down list, they all passed. Another thing that we can notice is we see on the left here, it tells us what browser we tested in. So right here, we tested in the Edge browser. But from other information you can add here is, for instance, you can enter like what URL you're testing, and also when you tested, and so on. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our original code. This time, so first I'm going to delete this one because we're going to try running again, and we're going to try and do something different. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our page object right here, and I'm going to change this name here from golf course into golf course name. Remember that golf course name does not exist. It's not an actual web locator. So by changing that, what we should expect is we should expect that the test is not able to find whichever element was originally golf course. So now we're going to go back to Edge here, and we're going to run this again. We'll give it some time to run. Okay, now it finished running. What we can do is we can go to our extent report here, and we can open it again. So I'm going to open with Firefox again, and we see that our test actually failed, and it'll signify this the status right here, and it will show that which step failed. So for instance, this step right here was the step that failed, and it'll actually say here, for instance, expected golf course name, but what it actually found was golf course, and this is because of us changing that web element earlier to golf course name. And if we scroll down a bit more, right here we were supposed to get a screenshot of what went wrong. So because of the extent report and the size of the screenshot, it didn't really show up. So what we can do is we can go back to here, and we can go to failed test screenshots right here, this package, and we see the PNG right here. So we can right click it, and we can open it. Let's just open it in Explorer, and then we can just double click it, and it will show us where the test went wrong. Now, how was this screenshot created? I think earlier I might have kind of not really explained it that well. So let's go back to the controller class that we have. So remember in those test classes that we just saw, we called book golf course 2. So where the screenshot is taken is right here. So this is validating the text within the book golf course. And we see that if we get the wrong text down here, we'll take a screenshot basically. So take a screenshot there, and then we'll save it into the extent report, as well as onto our local computer. So yeah, so that is basically a little bit more information on the general structure of our web test project. Stay tuned for our next video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.